Welcome to Football Game Plan's FCS Kickoff, presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and welcome to Week 15, the semifinal rounds of the FCS playoffs. Again, we're down to the final four teams in the FCS playoffs, but here's what we have on tap for this episode. We're going to break down the four games we have left on the schedule. We're also going to take a look at the 2016 Celebration Bowl, which will pit North Carolina Central versus Grambling State. And as always, we'll take a look at some of the key draft prospects still playing this weekend that you want to keep an eye on. Although we're not completely done with the 2016 FCS football season, it's never too early to start speculating about 2017. I think next season will be a good one for a couple of young squads that gained valuable experience this year. When you look at teams like Maine, William & Mary, Yale, and Florida A&M, what you saw from them this year was a lot of young players that got better each and every game, while as a team, they became much more cohesive by season's end. I would also keep an eye on Houston Baptist of the Southland Conference. I really enjoy watching them grow this year, and they had an outstanding 2016 recruiting class and have made some significant headway in a very tough Southland Conference. North Alabama is moving up to the FCS ranks and joining the Big South in 2018. The Lions will play in a Division II National Championship game this weekend against Northwest Missouri State, taking place in Kansas City, and the Lions will remain in the Gulf South Conference through the 2017-2018 academic year, and they are a long-time Division II power. They'll play in the Big South Conference starting in 2018 and compete in the Athletic Sun Conference in each of its other sports. They'll be an FCS independent in 2018. North Alabama moving up sort of ties into my next point about the possibility of West Coast football making a comeback, this time at the FCS level. Programs like Long Beach State, Cal State Fullerton, and Santa Clara, amongst others, have all had football programs before, and there's been momentum on campus by students, of course, to revive these programs. Now, this is just my opinion, but I do think it would be great for the FCS, because right now there is only 3 California schools in the subdivision: San Diego, Cal Poly, and UC Davis. There's a huge need and market for more programs out west, and with the California JUCO population and football booming, a lot of these programs could be competitive in either a scholarship or non-scholarship realm. Now here's a look at a sample Western Conference and what it will look like in the FCS. I know this is a pipe dream, but it's one that I would love to see happen, and if these athletic departments are able to make it make sense financially for the university, I think it will be a welcome addition to the subdivision. The students will definitely want it, and I know the great majority of FCS fans definitely want more FCS football as well. And finally, Morgan State removed the interim tag from Fred Ferrier and named him the official head coach of the Bears program. I like this move as it provides stability to a program that is building in the right direction. And Coach Ferrier is an offensive genius and can now completely focus on adding more talent to this Morgan State Bears roster. Look for them to be vastly improved in 2017.
Well, the FCS creates so many opportunities for young men. And it's, I think, and you look in our league, it's really the best. It's the best combination of winning football, but also outstanding student athletes. That's really the true model here. And a lot of the FCS programs feel the same way. And, we're blessed to be where we're at here at Lehigh, and everybody else in this league feels the same way. But the FCS, you'll see a lot of people that aren't coming necessarily to the NFL, but what they are is they're becoming leaders of industry, whatever they do when they graduate. And that's really the most important piece of going to college and playing college football, is to getting that degree. And our guys really excel in that response.
Like we always do about this time, let's take a look at some of the top NFL draft prospects you want to keep an eye on this weekend in our 5th Down Draft Outlook. Taylor Reynolds out of James Madison is one of my more favorite prospects in this draft class, coming out of the FCS ranks at 5'11", 195. He has the ability to play both corner and safety. He's more of a corner than safety than Dean Marlowe was when he came out of James Madison. But when you look at a guy that has the ball skills, has the ability to play off or up close on the receiver, and is an excellent man-to-man defender, you can see why a lot of scouts are intrigued by what he brings to the table. Avery Moss of Youngstown State is another prospect you want to keep an eye on in this ball game versus Eastern Washington. He's going to have a chance to showcase what he has done from a pass rushing standpoint over the last couple of seasons for the Penguins. You talk about a guy this year that has 35 tackles, solo stops. You also look at 9.5 sacks, and he's a constant terror coming off the edge with 14.5 TFLs. And if he can be a factor in this ball game, it not only will look good on him from a pro prospect standpoint, but would also help his football team move on to the FCS title game. So definitely keep an eye on Avery Moss, number 9 of Youngstown State.
Before I get to the semifinal matchup, in other Colonial Athletic Association news, Richmond head coach Danny Rocco has agreed to terms to become the head coach of their CAA rival, the University of Delaware Blue Hens. This will obviously cause some tension within the conference. That will be a game to keep an eye on when the schedules come out. Now let's shift our focus back to the FCS playoffs. And then there was one. After Richmond's blowout loss to Eastern Washington, the James Madison Dukes are the only CAA team that remains. The CAA champs' magical season continues as they head to Fargo, North Dakota to take on the 1 seed and defending national champion North Dakota State Bison. This will be their toughest task to date though. The Bison were the co-Missouri Valley Football Conference champions this year with an 11-1 record. They blew out their co-champion counterparts, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, 36-10. I wouldn't write off the Dukes though. JMU set an FCS playoff record for most points scored in a playoff game, beating formerly unbeaten Sam Houston State 65-7. It was 42-0 going into halftime. They outgained the nation's top-ranked offense 607-270. Senior running back Khalid Abdullah ran for 141 yards and 3 touchdowns. And his sophomore counterpart, Trey Sharp, ran for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Dukes didn't just do it on offense though. They scored 2 touchdowns on defense and another 2 touchdowns on special teams. James Madison has passed every test they have taken to this point. North Dakota State has already taken down great teams like Eastern Washington, Youngstown State, and Charleston Southern, among other teams. Will the Dukes be able to step up to the plate again against a dominant team? If their offense continues to work as the well-oiled machine that it has been to this point, and their defense continues to play lights out, it is not far-fetched for them to come out on top. Well, I know what I'll be doing on Friday night. Good luck to the James Madison Dukes this weekend.
Welcome to the Big Sky. I'm Anthony Crescenzo. As we know, there's only one team in Big Sky left in the FCS playoffs, and it is the number 2 seed Eastern Washington Eagles with their number 2 overall ranked offense, number 2 passing game, and 2 Walter Payton Award finalists in quarterback Gage Gubrud and his number 1 wide receiver, NFL-ready Cooper Kupp. They will host Youngstown State this weekend. That's right, the Penguins will visit the Inferno in a rematch of the 1997 semifinals, which is the last time the Gwins won the national title. The Eagles won it all in 2010, which is also the last time the Eags were in the semis. Congratulations are due to Cooper Kupp, who is now the all-time leader in receiving yards in the history of college football with 6,284. In the 30-0 shutout this weekend against Richmond, Kupp had 6 catches for 128 yards and a score before being minimized by Coach Ball Baldwin since he's still playing with his shoulder injury. Quarterback Gage Gubrud finished with 287 yards and 3 touchdowns as he connected for points with Simba Washington and Shaq Hill as well. Antoine Custer Jr. and Jabari Wilson ran in scores in the second half as Baldwin did a great job of managing the clock. The real story of this game was the defense, with its first shutout in 102 games, allowing only 205 yards, which is the fewest in 28 games. They forced 5 turnovers and got 6 sacks. Senior defensive end Samson Abukam led the D with 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 other tackles for loss, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and an interception. Senior linebacker Micaiah Zamora, who missed the second round due to a hamstring injury, had 8 tackles and a fumble recovery. This weekend, Eastern is going to need Antoine Custer Jr. to have a big day returning kickoffs to keep the field short and allowing for running lanes to open up the passing. Once Gubru connects with Cup, it'll be a frenzy. If the D does what it did last week and all season long, especially Abukam and Zamora, this game could become about killing the clock like it was last week. For the Big Sky, I'm Anthony Crescenzo.
From the Missouri Valley Football Conference, I'm Brian Sullivan. After an exciting round 3 that saw Youngstown State overcome their own mistakes and Wofford's tricky triple option to win 30-23 in double overtime, and North Dakota State get their revenge on South Dakota State as they won handily 36-10, the Missouri Valley Football Conference will represent 2 of the last 4 teams in the playoffs. Now let's take a look at the semifinals, starting off by heading to Pullman, Washington, as Penguin Nation continue their Cinderella playoff run as they travel to Eastern Washington in a game of offense versus defense. The Eagles, who come in on an 11-game winning streak, bring in the FCS leading passing offense, led by Big Sky co-offensive MVP quarterback Gage Gubru, who had 736 yards and 5 TDs so far, and NFL-ready wide receiver Cooper Kupp, who has 16 catches for 223 yards and 3 TDs in the playoffs. They put up 297 yards passing and 451 total yards versus Richmond, which was the second best defense against the pass and ranked 9th in total defense. They will have to face their toughest challenge of the playoffs so far, as they have to go against that scary Penguin Nation defense that has dominated every game in the playoffs, led by NFL-ready defensive end Derek Rivers and his partner in crime defensive end Avery Moss, and an experienced secondary anchored by Leroy Alexander. Rivers and Moss were spectacular in breaking up Wofford's triple option last week, which is no easy task. If the Eagles' offensive line can't handle the two, Gubru will be running for his life and throwing passes from the ground, as Bo Pelini will have the defense ready to go in this one. On the offensive side, Penguin Nation brings in their prolific running game, led by running back Jody Webb's 527 playoff rushing yards and Martin Ruiz. They will be crucial in the game, as the Eagles' defense has shut out opponents in 7 out of the last 8 quarters while allowing only 449 yards in the last 2 games. Penguin Nation's game plan all playoffs has been to run the ball and eat up the clock to keep the opposing offenses off the field. My prediction here is Penguin Nation defense shuts down Gubru and the Eagles to advance to the FCS Championship 24-21. You can catch this game Saturday on ESPNU at 6:30 p.m. And finally, heading to the Fargo Dome as Missouri Valley co-champs North Dakota State looking to make 19 straight playoff wins at home as they host CAA champs James Madison. The Dukes bring in their #1 scoring offense in the FCS with an average of 60 points in 2 playoff games, led by quarterback Brian Shore, who has 622 yards and 6 TDs in 2 games. He is joined by his 2-headed running attack, led by Khalid Abdullah's 228 yards rushing and 3 scores, and Trey Sharp's 221 yards and 2 TDs. They like to get on the board early, as they have outscored their opponents in the first quarter 14-3. The Bisons will counter with their #3 scoring defense that has allowed 17 points in the playoffs, anchored by safety Trey Dempsey, which has only gotten better every week since their heart and soul Nick DeLuca went down for the season. They held South Dakota State's high-powered offense to 10 points and 30 total yards in the last 3 quarters. On offense, the Bison game plan, as usual, will be to be physically dominant during the game by running the ball, eating up the clock, and keeping opponents' offense off the field. Their running game is led by their 2 physical running backs, King Frazier and Lance Dunn, who have run wild in the playoffs. They have combined for a total of 326 yards in 2 games. And don't forget about quarterback Easton Stick, who has rushed for 370 yards, as well as to go along with 396 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. If James Madison decides to stack the box to stop the Bison running attack, this could open up the door for wide receiver Darius Shepard and RJ Urzanowski to have huge games again, as they combined for 152 yards on 7 receptions last week. My prediction here is the Bison win their 18th straight playoff home game, 35-28, and advance to the national championship game to take on Penguin Nation. You can watch this game Friday on ESPN2 at 7 p.m.
Starting with North Carolina Central in this ball game, quarterback Marcus Bell's precision will be key for the Eagles. He's an outstanding passer and also a great runner. If he can have some success throwing the football against this very tough Grambling secondary, it bodes well for their chances. We saw him be precise against North Carolina A&T, and they're going to need him to be precise as well against Grambling. Also, North Carolina Central has to win the special teams battle. I like what they bring to the table from a kicking perspective, from a return perspective, and also from a coverage standpoint. If they can win the third aspect of this ball game, it bodes well for their chances as well. And the Eagles also have to keep their foot on the gas on both sides of the ball. This is what gave North Carolina A&T problems when they played each other a couple of weeks ago, which is why the Aggies found it tough to come back. It also, quiet as kept, gave Grambling problems in the SWAC championship game with Alcorn State. Alcorn jumped out to an early lead but couldn't keep their foot on the gas on both sides of the ball in the second half, which is why Grambling was able to come back and ultimately find themselves in this bowl game. So if I'm North Carolina Central, with the way their offense can get out on you quickly and with the way their defense can get after the quarterback, it's important that they keep their foot on the gas for 4 quarters. And for Grambling in this ball game, they have to avoid those costly penalties. That's what got them into an early hole in the SWAC championship game. This is a football team that averages between 8 to 10 penalties a game. That can't happen against a team like North Carolina Central. And the offensive line of Grambling, which has played great all season long, has to continue to play excellent football against one of the very tough defensive fronts they've faced all season long. If this offensive front can do a great job of keeping Devontae Kincaid well protected back there in the pocket, then Grambling's offense will have a ton of success moving the football down the field. And the Tigers have to get off the bus ready to play. I thought they kind of sleptwalk through that SWAC championship game versus Alcorn State, and it nearly cost them a trip to the Celebration Bowl. That can't happen, obviously, versus a team of the caliber of North Carolina Central. So if the Tigers can get off the bus ready to go like they did in the second half, this is going to be a great football game. The biggest X factor in this ball game for North Carolina Central will be the play of their outstanding linebacker, Reggie Hunter. He's the quarterback of their defense. He's their leading tackler. Also has 11 TFLs, 4 interceptions, so he does a great job on both ends of defense. He's going to have to do an outstanding job in this ball game of making sure running back Martez Carter doesn't get going early and often for the Grambling Tigers. If they can make this team one-dimensional, it bodes well for their chances. So Reggie Hunter, in my opinion, will be the biggest X factor in making sure the Eagles can accomplish that goal. And for the Tigers, I look at their defensive line. I think their defensive front can have a lot of success. They have to be able to answer the bell against North Carolina Central. You look at guys like Samuel Reese, Lauren Blaine Winston, 2 outstanding defensive linemen. If they can collapse a pocket and force Malcolm Bell to stay within that tackle-to-tackle box, it goes well in helping this team, making sure they defend the pass very effectively. And also, it helps them clog up those running lanes. So those 2 defensive linemen, Reese and Lauren Blaine Winston, I think will have to have huge games and make life a lot easier for Arquez Cooper, their outstanding linebacker, to make plays running downhill. Now here is a look at some of the top NFL draft prospects you want to keep an eye on in this ball game. And as you can see, with the bevy of talent on both sides of the ball for both squads, you can understand why these 2 teams are here in the Celebration Bowl. You look at Chad Williams, the wide receiver out of Grambling, 6'2", 193, has already accepted his invitation to the NFLPA Bowl, which is an all-star game that takes place in January at the same time of the Senior Bowl. So a lot of other guys on this list, like Guy Stallworth. We talked about the 2 defensive linemen for Grambling as well. Malcolm Bell, outstanding quarterback. You also look at their tremendous offensive tackle, Desmond Cooper, at 6'6", 325. I think he has the opportunity to play either left or right tackle as a pro, and he has a great chance to raise his stock going up against those 2 outstanding defensive linemen of Grambling. So again, a lot of Sunday talent will be out there on the field on display for you draftniks watching the 2016 Celebration Bowl. Now, I won't give a prediction because I'll be at this game in attendance doing some scouting, but on both sides of the ball, be on the lookout for how well both teams come out offensively and which defense steps up to the plate early. I think we're in store for yet another outstanding Celebration Bowl. Last year, the inaugural game between North Carolina A&T and Alcorn State was an instant classic. I think this one has a chance to be another instant classic, a great one to kick off the 2016-17 bowl season.
I think that the main reason to choose HBCU is for the family atmosphere. The guys are going to get the core values that their parents taught them, that their family members tried to raise them. You'll have a close-knit atmosphere. You'll actually have guys that care about you as a person. So I think that's the main reason for choosing the HBCU.
Are you ready? The Connecticut School of Broadcasting can help you reach the next level in the amazing world of broadcast and entertainment media.
I've mentored several interns here at the Covino and Rich Show at SiriusXM, and the ones from CSB always stand out to me. They have a knowledge of the equipment, knowledge of editing, what it's like to be in a studio, and that always eliminates a huge learning curve.
Their professional studios give students a hands-on, learn-by-doing approach using equipment used in actual radio stations and TV studios. Visit our website at gocsb.com or call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Start today.
Welcome back to Football Game Plan's FCS Kickoff, presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and it's now time to preview the semifinal slate of games. And we're going to start in Fargo, North Dakota, as the North Dakota State Bison meet up with the James Madison Dukes. Let's take a look at some of the coaching points or keys to victory in this contest. James Madison, this is just another team in a different uniform if you're the Dukes. Again, this team has played exceptionally well. You saw what they did last week to Sam Houston State. Different team, different uniform, and you can go out there and play your game, so you don't have to be wild that, oh my God, we're playing North Dakota State. Just go out there and do what you do best, which is run the football, play great defense, opportunistic defense, and they can have a chance. And I would work Brandon Ravenel, the receiver, in the ball game early, or work him in the game plan early and often. That way you can loosen up that box a little bit, force North Dakota State to worry a little bit more about the passing game, and that way you can have some success running the football. And defensively, it's about winning on first down. They want to make this game an Easton Stick versus Brian Shore game, and I think that would favor James Madison. That's what they want. They want to be able to take North Dakota State's running game away, and if they can win on first down defensively, it's going to put them in more passing situations. And for North Dakota State in this ball game, it's about winning inside the red zone. This is an area where I believe the Bison have had some issues throughout the course of the season. They have to be sure to pay off inside the red zone with 7 and not 3 against a team as explosive as James Madison. And defensively, it's about beating the guards to the spot. The Dukes love to move their guards left to right, pull them in the running game. And if you can beat those guards to the spot, you'll bottle up that running game and really put them in more of a one-dimensional situation. So if those defensive linemen or linebackers or safeties can beat those guards to the spot, it bodes well for their chances. And again, this is a 5-time defending champion North Dakota State football team. They have that championship pedigree, and what that means is when they get down in a ball game or where things are not going their way, they can dig themselves out of it. They're not worried about a deficit. They're not worried about a turnover. They're not worried about not being able to execute flawlessly. This team has that championship pedigree, and you'll see it on full display in this ball game. The biggest X factor in this game for James Madison will be how well they do in the passing game, and that falls right on the shoulders or the right arm of Brian Shore, the quarterback. You have to expect North Dakota State to do a great job versus the run. So then what you turn to is your passing game. And Brian Shore did a great job versus Sam Houston State, and they'll need an encore performance versus the Bison. And for North Dakota State in this ball game, I look at the linebacking core being the biggest X factor for this football team. MJ Stumpf has done a great job all season long on both ends of defense. Even without their outstanding linebacker Nick DeLuca, Stumpf has stood up and stepped up his play and has done a great job. If they can control the running game or stop the running game of James Madison and do a great job in the intermediate pass defense department, this Bison team has a great chance of making it back to Frisco. I like North Dakota State in this ball game. This will be a very close contested contest, and I like the fact that both teams match up extremely well, but I do believe the biggest X factor and this determining factor in this game will be the North Dakota State special teams. I think Cam Peterson will be a big reason why the Bison go on and play for their 6th straight national championship. Youngstown State takes on Eastern Washington, and looking at some keys to victory for both teams in this ball game. Starting with Youngstown State, they have to overcome the adversity. I know some players will be suspended for this ball game. We don't know which players it may be, but they have to find ways as a team to overcome that adversity. And also they have to win on the perimeter against a team in Eastern Washington that can spread the field with 4 wide receiver sets, sometimes even 5 wide receiver sets. And if those guys on the back end, corners or safeties, can't win those one-on-one battles, then they could struggle. And offensively against Eastern Washington in the cold, it's about staying ahead of the chains. Now the good part about it, Youngstown State is weather tested. They played some bad conditions playing in Ohio, but they have to be sure to stay ahead of the chains, get their running game going early, and allow their quarterback to operate off play action. And for Eastern Washington in this ball game, I would keep those edge rushers of Youngstown State guessing all game long. You're talking about guys like Derek Rivers and Avery Moss. Sometimes you want to run right at them, force those pass rushers to be run defenders. Also, you want to screen to both sides, get those guys flying upfield and throwing a screen right over their heads. Keep those guys guessing all game long, and that will ease a lot of the pressure that they want to bring defensively. And the defensive line of Eastern Washington versus the running game will be key. If they can stop the running game and make this a passing game for both teams, you know that heavily favors the Eagles. So if that defensive line can come ready to play like they did last week versus Richmond, they have a great chance in knocking off Youngstown State. And also, it's about playing the field position game. Youngstown State is a team you want to force them to drive the length of the field consistently. So if they stop Eastern Washington on 3rd down, that punting game has to be key. They want to flip field positions, get at least 3 first downs per possession, and force Youngstown State to drive the length of the field throughout the course of this ball game. The biggest X factor in this game for Youngstown State, in my opinion, will be head coach Bo Pelini and how he can rally the troops on both sides of the ball and get this team ready to play. They're going to be dealing with a lot of questions coming from the media about the suspensions. He had to suspend some guys, and that's always frustrating for a coach. And if he can put together a great game plan, which he has done all season long, and rally these guys around that game plan and around each other, then Bo Pelini will have his team playing in Frisco, Texas. And the biggest X factor for Eastern Washington will be the play of their defensive line. We talked about it earlier, how they have to be able to stop the run. But I look at guys like Samson Ebukam and what he does from a pass rushing standpoint. If they can just constantly reset the line of scrimmage and be a nuisance to that passing game and running game of Youngstown State, I think they'll do a great job in dictating how the course of this game will go. But if they can't stop this run and Youngstown State starts to build confidence, then that entire defense could struggle. I like Eastern Washington in this ball game. This offense, goes without saying, is the best offense in the FCS from a consistency standpoint, running game, and also their ability to throw the football down the field. But I've been very impressed with how well they've played defensively. I think that's been the story of these FCS playoffs for the Eastern Washington Eagles. Their defense has stepped up to the challenge, has taken the bull by the horns, and have played great versus the run, getting guys off the field and also creating turnovers. So look for the Eastern Washington Eagles to go on to Frisco, Texas to face the North Dakota State Bison. So that's it for this week's episode of the FCS Kickoff presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts and also check out and subscribe to our FCS Opening Drive podcast on iTunes.